I think we can start now. We have around 100 participants that have already joined us.
Sure. Sure.
Sure.
Sure. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar. This is the fourth one in the series of webinars that we've been doing so far. So, just to introduce the team here, I am Rishabh from Global Linker. We are an online networking platform which is AI enabled, and we have more than 270,000 members on the platform from various industries, from various countries and geographies. And we work with various partners. So, Vadvani Foundation has been a very key partners of ours, and my colleague Barsha from Vadvani Foundation would also be introducing the foundation and what they do in much more detail. Over to you, Barsha.
Hi everyone. Very good evening, and thank you so much, Rishabh. And thank you all for being a part of this webinar. Just a little brief about what we do in terms of Vadvani as a foundation. So we are a foundation which is about over 20 years in presence, and our entire focus has been working towards creating large-scale jobs ecosystem, across 20 developing countries in the world. And of course, given the situation today that we all are going through, it's a very, very turbulent and a harsh time. Our endeavor has been that we should be able to reach out to all the small and medium-sized enterprise owners, such as you all who are there, so to help you all go through your business transformation, grow and get to the path of growth. As Rishabh mentioned, that we our endeavor, especially in this COVID times, which is in the last couple of months, life has completely changed for all of us. And therefore, one of the things that we have started doing is we have started reaching out to all the SMEs along with our partner Global Linker, where one of the initiatives that we are doing is doing these virtual meetups. And without much ado, I'll just quickly go into what we are planning to do today in terms of the meetup that we have planned today is around how do you really manage and raise funds, because I think the businesses have really pummeled, and it has had serious implications across all the sectors uh, of businesses of varied sizes. And of course, the uncertainty is daunting, and all of us are going through basic survival pangs. So therefore, the endeavor today was that we should be able to help you through uh, you know help you understand and gather knowledge around what kind of funds which are available, how do you really manage and tide over this moment. It's going to be a two-part webinar series, and the first one that we are talking today is how do you really manage funds for survival. The second one would be focused around raising challenges, fundraising challenges, approaches to valuation, and for more around growth and sustainability. One of our partners, Venture Beam Consulting, who are the key experts today for the webinar. I'd like to introduce Ramakrishnan Venkateshwar.
Hi.
Has over 3 decades of experience, and his core expertise lies in lending and risk management and finance control and fundraising. And of course, he will share all his inputs and experiences, and he'll lay it on the table. And we would really encourage all of you to uh, question, ask, engage, interact with the panelists. We also have Isaac Matthew. He's the co-founder and director of Venture Beam Consulting, and Matthew also has over 28 plus years of experience. And of course, his core expertise lies in business planning for growth, scale up, and end-to-end business operational improvement. So without much ado, I would really hand over and request both our panelists to begin the webinar. Request all the attendees to kindly, raise your question and put in your question in the Q&A, which is given there. Of course, we will be following any question that are raised on the chat, but earnestly request everyone to put in your questions, and we'll definitely try and take up as many questions. In case we are not able to, we will definitely pick them up and respond to them separately if you share your email IDs. Thank you so much, and over to you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barsha, Rishabh. Hi, guys. This is Matthew, and thank you once again to Vadvani and to Global Linker for this opportunity. I am one of the founder directors at Venture Beam. We are an 8-year-old niche consulting firm in Bangalore. Over the last 8 years, we have we have worked with over 225 firms. And, RK and I firmly believe that the more you give, the more you get. And that's one of the reasons we are working closely with the Vadhvani Foundation here to try and help out all you SMBs at this point in time. So I'm going to start sharing the screen. Please just tell me if you're able to see this.
Yeah, it's visible.
It's visible? Okay. So we're going to talk about, so this is, this is basically our theme for today's webinar, and we're actually taking it in 2 slots. Sorry. Today's thing, we're going to talk about managing funds for survival. We're breaking it up into 2 parts. One is the survival mode, which is what is required immediately. The second one, which we have to look at, is sustenance and growth. And we're going to address certain challenges and opportunities of that in the second part. So today we'll be talking about the survival and managing funds. And going forward, we'll also be talking about, so the webinar scheduled for 5th, we'll be talking about valuation and readiness for fundraising ahead. Okay, so that is our agenda for today. We are also going to try and talk about the financial angle and business readiness angle. So, that's where we are at. RK?
Yeah, very good evening to all the participants, and more importantly, I would like to wish everyone a very happy Labor Day. And incidentally, without we businessmen, I don't think the laborers could ever be happy. So a very good, a very happy Labor Day to all of you. So the approach which we would be taking in this webinar is to look at businesses from the angle of, say, a household, a father looking at his child. Okay, so most of the discussions over here would be how a household would look at addressing the challenges, and not necessarily try to put in jargon, the finance jargon into this, because we want each and every one of us to understand the importance of this pandemic and the way forward, rather than trivializing it with academic knowledge. Okay, and most of this is coming from our experience, not necessarily with what we are facing today, but more from our experience as to what a prudent father would do to safeguard his business, right? So the impact, when we look at the impact, this is an unprecedented situation. There is no demand, there is no supply, and for anything, for any goods or services, and except for essentials and healthcare. If you look at an example, in the history of Maruti Suzuki, there has never been a situation where there has been 0 sales. And unfortunately, April was 0 sales for Maruti Suzuki. And if you look back, the last year, Maruti did about 86,000 crore. And if we have to break it into if you look at this year, they would end up with about 75,000 to 78,000 crore. What will happen if Maruti doesn't sell? The biggest issue going forward is this could carry on for the next couple of months, and Maruti would have to dip into their reserves, their cash reserves, and so on and so forth. This has potential for significant increase in localized consumption. So people would want to, as much as possible, look at covering their immediate risks. They become more human in their wants. Okay, and basically, and that is also relating to a shift to the rural areas because of unprecedented shift in population. So everyone would want to go back to their respective homes and be safe over there, because everything is related to saving lives. There is a very high possibility of resource crunch in urban areas versus the surplus in rural areas, thus creating a very high volatility of income and the cost of labor. When I say this high volatility or resource crunch in urban areas, there has been a significant reverse migration which has happened. And these are the people who are the laborers and so on and so forth, who typically look at the blue-collared jobs in the country. And these are the people who are at the lower end of the workforce. And if this gets shifted, the cost of labor is going to be significantly high for the businesses. There is going to be severe cash flow constraints, a potential to decimate multiple businesses, multiple business models. So there's a lot of possibility that the euphoric business models which were built in the era before COVID, they can be disrupted. There's a potential to pose multiple challenges to not only to manage funds but also raise funds. And to top it all, there is nobody who knows when this will end, and unfortunately everyone is looking out for that nobody. Okay, Matthew, next.
Okay, Matthew, just one small feedback. Some people are not able to hear. If you could just try and be a little loud if possible.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Am I okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. See, one of the things which I got in a WhatsApp forward today, Jack Ma says for people in businesses, 2020 is really just a year of staying alive. Don't even talk about your dreams or plans. Just make sure that you're alive. And if you can stay alive, then you would have already made a profit. So what we suggest is some proactive solutions. That is back to basics, wherein we look at business continuity planning. We look at rewriting the business plans, which we would have otherwise wanted to execute. And more importantly, prioritizing survival.
RK, if I may add in here, guys, the point that we are trying to drive here is first survive, then we can think of the rest of it. Okay. So the immediate thing is what we need to go into a survival mode. The simple examples is what we've been doing in COVID is when we have not been getting the items that we need, we make do with what we have. Okay. The same funda has to apply for businesses also. Okay. So what do we need to look at? We have to put on the hat of survival first, and RK will talk more about that as we go on.
Yeah. So we can come to the aspect of business continuity planning. So irrespective of whatever we look at, is the business going to continue? Is the first assessment. And how do we do this assessment? We try to do a basic level, entity level impact on account of COVID. But irrespective of COVID or otherwise, a business should ideally try and assess business continuity at every point in time. What is going to happen in the event things are not within my control? And in today's context, this is more emphasizing, and we would like to want to check for all types of financial impact, irrespective of whatever the resources in the company or the entity is. Because when I say financial impact, everything is related to the financial impact of a business. And hence,
can I add in a couple of examples?
Yeah,
yeah, a couple of examples to help you guys relate. We are working with a client who's been, doing the furniture business. Who's been doing the furniture business, and he was supplying to some of the large names. And so during this time, when we were working with him on the financial, his planning was, he started looking at, okay, when the lockdown opens up, I'm going to, go to more of these guys. I'll go to hometown. I'll go to thing. And then we started.
I'm really sorry, Isaac. You've got to be a little louder because most of the participants are unable to hear. I'm so sorry about this.
No problem. Let me repeat that again.
I think it's better when you hold the mic closer. I think it's much better now.
Okay. I'm thanks for the feedback. Yeah. We are also getting used to, doing this.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Thanks for the feedback. So let me just give you a couple of examples. There's a guy we are working with on the furniture business, and he was earlier working with a couple of large names. Now, when COVID hit, and during this time when he's taking help from us in looking at what is the survival mode, he's still in the mode of when the lockdown lifts, I'm going to start looking at, I will go and meet with hometown, I'll go to meet with this. But when we are talking about survival mode, I asked him, what time frame do you think you will start getting orders. No, I'll go and talk to Flipkart and they'll open up and I'll talk. When do you think Flipkart is going to start taking orders for this? Is it going to be 3 months, 6 months? If it is 3 months away, what are you going to do now? Then he started thinking a little more and said, oh, I've got, I'm getting some requests for masks. I'm getting requests for sanitizers. Okay. So he's thinking a little out of the box. So what we're trying to talk about this, similarly on the financial impact side, what we're trying to say is there might be opportunities to break down your costs. You were earlier paying rental for a month. You were paying utilities for a month. You're paying salaries for a month. But when you're looking at once it opens up and you're phasing out because of social distancing, your manufacturing will get split up. So your overall cost of production could come down. So what can you do in terms of pricing going forward? This is what we are talking about in terms of looking at your cost of production, looking at your variable costing, looking at pricing differentiation, looking at alternating. This is what we mean by survival thing and impacts on operational and other this thing.
And more importantly, we also would suggest that businesses shouldn't overdo the survival aspect. Some of them are not looking at it from a survival point of view. They're going a little bit overboard and seeing they have a sight of what could happen, say 12 months down the line. Hence, they want to ensure that they have the cash reserves in order to address those opportunities which could come 12 months down the line.
Perfect, RK. In fact, that's another good example we have. In fact, one conversation RK and I were having with a business, he says, I just need bridge funds now so that I know that, when it opens up by December, March, we are good to go.
Yeah, okay. and some of them who have the clout, okay, these are the guys, when I come to the point of assess customer impact, existence, relationship, future. Okay, so there are a couple of very large guys who have decided to defer the payments for their suppliers. Why? Because they feel that after 12 months or say 9 months, there is going to be a shift in demand and they should have the wherewithal to address that shift. What are they doing? They are clearly saying that let us maintain our relationship. We will pay you anyhow after 6 months. Let us continue those relationships while they are sitting pretty much happy with the cash reserves. Okay, so it's all about trying to look at who survival of the fittest and survival of the quickest. So one who is able to assess the situation in a quick manner is the one who is ahead of the survival curve. Okay, and more importantly, the impact on legal and regulatory losses, if any, has to be checked. When I say legal, there could be many a situation where there could be disputes arising out of your decisions. You will have to definitely assess whether there is a potential for a legal dispute happening. There are, while we will not delve into the disaster management and force majeure situations in this program, there are possibilities that many of you could face an opportunity or a potential force majeure possibility. Then what is the impact which it will create both from a financial point of view as well as from a survival point of view? That has to be checked. Similarly, regulatory losses. Typically what happens is the SMB bills his client, waits for the payment perennially. It could be either 90 days, it could be 120 days. In some cases, it could even be 180 days. These are very large clients who are where the solvency is very high, but they may delay significantly. And the SMB ends up paying GST. This GST of anywhere between 18 to 28% is a working capital loss for the SMB. Is this this is because there is a regulatory environment which says once you bill, you better pay. Is that an impact which is going to hit you? Because you would have billed in, say, February, March, although the government has given a fair bit of support on those counts, that thing is definitely going to hit you in June, July. Are you prepared for that? Okay. So this is what we would suggest the businesses to do. How to plan for a business continuity after understanding the impact. The businesses have to identify the critical resources, the systems, the facilities, support, so on and so forth that are required for continuity of the business once things turn around. And these critical resources would have to be protected. Businesses should also assess the time required to recover after the identification is done. The business could recover in, say, just after lockdown. Many of them are assuming that the lockdown, once the lockdown is removed on May 3rd, things would be back to normal, that is before COVID. But unfortunately, this may not be panning out like that. Because as I said earlier, the demand has completely been crushed. It could probably go beyond, say, 9 to 12 months. Are we ready for that? Is the time enough for us to recover? Irrespective of whatever it is, check for all the financial impact based on the business continuity plan.
I would like to add on here this time required for to recover. How to get an estimate of this is you'll have to keep interfacing with customers, with other folks. You'll have to continue because, like RK said earlier, nobody knows what it is. So you'll have to continuously keep scanning the environment to figure what's the time required and do a plan A, plan B, plan C type of a thing. It's a constant exercise now more so.
Yeah. The most important thing for any business, even before they start, is to writing a business plan. This calls for a situation where everyone is expected to start from scratch, irrespective of whoever you are. Even the government of India has to consider starting from scratch. So some of the suggestions which business people we were supposed to give, we had also suggested a separate isolated COVID-19 budget, which is completely isolated from the budget which was provided on February 20. This helps. If it is from a business point of view, it helps the business to understand where it stands with respect to whatever has happened. Right, reprioritize the business model. There could be many a situation where an aggressive stance would have been taken because things were all hunky-dory and everything was moving fine. This calls for revisiting our own selves and redefining, okay, reprioritizing the business model. Whether the focus areas which we were focusing earlier, are they the ones which we should do henceforth? Because irrespective of whatever is happening, the lockdown may not be opened for every district or every state together. So those areas which would have been traditional high revenue earners may have been in the red zone or may have been in the difficult areas. So these would have been your significant focus areas. They may have to be revisited, and a complete shift in the business model. The productivities levels have to be revisited. The costs have to be revisited. And more importantly, what we suggest at this point in time, it is all about survival. And for survival, it is bottoms-up planning. So irrespective of any financial plan, our suggestion is to look at it from a bottoms-up panel. When I'm saying bottoms-up, it is always a good situation to address costs rather than revenue first. So when you look at it from a cost point of view, at some point in time, you can it is more important that you address all those things which are controllable rather than all those things which are aspirational. So when I say aspirational, revenue is generally aspirational unless and until you have found out the magic formula, which says I will keep the business will continue to make this number irrespective of whatever goes. So we would want businesses to revisit their planning from cost point of view, look at essentials and remove non-essentials. When we say essentials, some of those essentials could be your salaries to your employees. Some of them could be rentals which you are otherwise have to pay. Okay, the utilities, they may have to continue irrespective of whether you are in business or not. Okay, then the costing have to be based on the actuals for essentials. So don't go overboard. Look at what is happening in the market. Reach out to people whom you know. Try to understand what typical costs are happening in those areas. Try to negotiate as much as possible. These could be utopian, but at the end of the day, negotiation, reaching out, everyone is in a flux. So if you reach out, probably you could get the best out of this. Then we look at sustenance. When we say sustenance, we say whatever is available. Is it possible to ensure that it is able to pay the expenditure? So we would suggest a zero-based budgeting, and this has to be done month on month. So when I say zero-based budgeting, I look at what is there in May. What are the expenses I have to pay for in May? Is my cash reserves enough to ensure that I can pay this? If not, what? Understanding whether the identified expenses are being addressed with the available cash reserves, and how long will the burn continue? Understanding how much of the same can be funded through sales. Am I in a position to do sales? Is my market conducive? Is the demand there for my products? What is the additional impact on the cost of acquisition? Can you replace the same with lesser costs and higher efficiency? One has to get back to the drawing board and see whether these things are possible. Planning for minimum sales required after the haircut for possible inefficiencies and unsupportive market conditions. For example, assume that in a normal scenario on a realistic basis will not be there for at least 12 months. And assume that 50% of that realistic scenario to be the best case scenario for the next 12 months. And then plan a 25% haircut on the same. So going back to the Maruti reference, Maruti has to do 86,000 crore in the year FY 2020 in order to be at 0% growth compared to FY 2019. They are falling short by at least 10%. They would be ending up anywhere between 75,000 to 78,000 crore. Come FY 2021, they have already lost 1 month, and most likely they're going to lose the second month as well. If that is the situation, they have already lost about 10 to 15% of FY 21 sales. But the difficult part is not much of these expenses can be curtailed. Maybe their contract laborers would be reduced, but the infrastructure cost, the high cost staff which they are having, their marketing costs, so on and so forth can never be curtailed, because Maruti has to continue to do those sales acquisition strategy, the sales acquisition costs similar to what they were doing, or just slightly lesser. They cannot just cut overnight because the competition in that segment is significantly high. Similar is the situation for a small business. They will want to understand each and every aspect of impact before looking at it. And if at all there is an opportunity for you to sell, please understand that opportunity and provide for at least 25% haircut, and whether that is able to address some of the cash burn which you are addressing. That is a prudent approach.
RK, can I jump in and add one thing here?
Yeah.
See, people, it is very critical. What RK is talking about is basically now think of not only plan A, that is, not only think of best case or worst case, we always advocate plan for worst case scenario. And here we are saying plan for worst case, look at a couple of options. Look at a couple of options if this doesn't work, even if the first worst case scenario. So the more scenario building you're able to do and plan conservatively, that will help in conserving your cash and looking at the cash burn. It is a time for being conservative and looking at being very particular about how you're managing this, and it constantly needs eyes on the business.
Yeah, Matthew. Yeah, when we look at prioritization for survival, we always believe cash is king. Most of you believe that. Okay. And when the cash is in bank, that is like an emperor. Okay. So these salaries and wages, rent, lease payments, these are all critical items to be prioritized. Why do we say salaries and wages? Going back to this, say the first slide where I mentioned the cost of labor is going to increase. The moment we sense a V-shaped recovery, everyone is going to be in an opportunistic mode and pay higher for their labor. For example, in the last couple of months, 85% of the drivers, the truck drivers, have gone back to their respective villages. And the ones who were able to retain had to pay at least 30 to 40% over and above their salaries. The number of societies who were the apartments which were able to retain their HK housekeeping staff had to pay at least 1 month extra bonus, because these are critical resources. So as far as possible, I'm not saying that it is you will have to bear each and every employee. As far as possible, your critical employees need to be protected, even to the extent that you reach out to them, have a dialogue, try and understand their situation, check whether they are comfortable with taking basic salaries. Everyone's expenses are expected to be cut. Can they survive with the basic salary which you are providing? There are multiple instances where people have accepted cuts. I'm not saying that if Ambani is able to forego his salary for the whole year, everyone should do, because Ambani need not even take salary for the next 50 years. But then everyone has to contribute here. You will have to reach out to them. This is the time when you reach out and make those relationships much more stronger, because those critical resources, they may cost you much higher in the times of euphoria, which is definitely going to happen. We will see a U-shaped or a V-shaped recovery, and at that point in time, we should not be caught red-handed or offhand. Okay. Then the next one is does the business have loans to repay, EMIs to repay? While the government has given a moratorium, I don't think this moratorium is going to be for 6 months or 9 months or whatever businesses are being asking for, because the banks also have to survive. And more importantly, the credit growth in the country is most critical for companies to grow. If the banks are in a fear psychosis situation, unfortunately, growth will just plummet like what has happened in the last couple of years. Debtors. Have you considered grading or rating your debtors? When I say grading or rating your debtors, who are those debtors who may not necessarily be very aggressive with you? Are these debtors willing to understand? Are they in a position to pay you after you accepting a haircut? Is there a possibility that you can get 100% quickly, as quickly as possible? Some of them do. For companies like Wipro are very good while paying. If they are saying about 60 days, they generally pay by 60 days. There are some companies which may not even pay at 180 days, big companies. But end of the day, you will have to rate them similar to what a banker would do. Is this company good enough? It would be even to the extent of going and checking their balance sheets, like what we have done for Maruti. Why not the businesses also go and check? There are large companies which you are working with. The MCA, the ROC provides those information. One has to, that is coming at a very low cost. it makes a lot of sense for you to understand their finances while addressing your finances. You will have to reach out to them, talk to them, and understand what is their view. There are many businesses which say for the next, for example, the very large ones have asked for a moratorium with banks. They're asking moratorium from banks. They are saying the deferment of payables to their suppliers and reduction in salary to their employees. So this is the way the large corporates are behaving. And if that is the way they are behaving, it makes all the more sense for you to reach out to them and see how much of your money is safe. Do that grading. Inventory. Do you have inventory which can be sold off by offering higher discounts? Even if if some of them come at lower than 50%, it makes sense, because at this point in time, there is definitely a situation of no control. If these things can be addressed, possibly the cash flow in itself will enable you to survive. Payables. Can these be negotiated? Can there be please check for relationship impairment, because that is very critical. Some of these payables which you would have kept are very important from a relationship point of view at the time when you want to continue the business. So it is very important, similar to how you treat your debtors, whether the same treatment has to be looked at from your payables side. Check for legal impact, because although there is a change in the NCLT, in the insolvency and bankruptcy code, the threshold has been increased. It is important for us to know who are those who could typically come back and file a case. While fighting COVID, we will end up fighting legal battle, which is going to be much more severe. So instead of, we will have to check the impact of those as well. Does the business have cash reserves to address all the above expenses? If yes, for how long? If not, is there a working capital facility which can address the above? There are many companies which have working capital facility. While some of the banks have been very aggressive in recalling those limits or curtailing those limits, there have been some angels like State Bank of India who have gone ahead and said, okay, although State Bank of India takes a lot of time, they are comfortable in giving 20% higher limit. You should definitely reach out. The more you reach out, the possibility is there for you to get those negotiations done. You should definitely ask for a higher facility. More importantly, one important feedback which I would like to give to, rather update which I would like to give to all the participants here. Banks are flush with funds. There's very high liquidity in the system. The rates are going to crash. Your interest rates are going to come down. It is your ability to negotiate with them which is going to help you reduce these interest rates. And the more importantly, there is going to be a situation when banks are going to follow the cash flow more importantly than collateral, because the over dependence on collateral is going to kill the banks as well. Because if it were today, they will never be able to sell anything which they repossess. So it is very important for the businesses also to understand this situation. Go back to the banks, ask for higher limit. Ensure that your rewritten business plan is capable of addressing those dues. If not, can you prioritize collection of receivables? Irrespective of whatever happens, the priority has to be there for collection of receivables. Let me give you an example from my own experience. Okay, I was working with one of the leading banks in the country in the infrastructure financing segment. During 2008-2009, there was a situation where the great financial crisis had pushed us to a situation where we had literally stopped lending. But the management wanted the same profit which was supposed to be there the previous year. So there was no change in the targets with respect to profits, but lending was curtailed. So if someone is stopped, in fact, the great financial crisis hit us in September 2008, and for more than half a year, we were not supposed to lend. Our focus was entirely on collection. the more we collected, we ended up with a profit which was higher than the previous year. Because the emphasis is more importantly from a collection point of view. You have to behave similar to a bank, but not the same aggression, but in a relationship mode. Please reach out to your large customers. See whether you can get them accept bills. There are multiple platforms which are doing bill discounting, invoice discounting facilities. Is there a possibility that you can get these facilities done? Reach out to them. Okay. And the worst case scenario, you may want to even provide a discount to these debtors, and that could be equal to the interest rate which otherwise the business is comfortable. Can the receivables can be collected at cost? If that is the final option which is left, the business has to forego the margins which otherwise they would have got, and at least collect their money. So what, in a nutshell, what we are saying, irrespective of whatever happens, please try to save the ship rather than looking at profits, looking at margins, so on and so forth. Matthew? There are different views from different stakeholders in a company. The investors would want to understand cash flow in depth, especially when the going gets tough. Is there something inside that is not right? Can we check what is the actual investment that has happened from the investors' funds? Is the company in a productive mode? Is the company going to survive? From a banker's perspective, the banker would want to understand cash flow in depth, especially when concerning their loans, whether they are going to be serviced regularly. More importantly, consider debtors. So what I had mentioned about grading and rating of debtors, the banker is otherwise going to do that. So instead of he doing and you finding surprises out of that, it is better that we do that. Okay. And then he's also going to understand your creditors. How long have you just kept them there, not paying? Are you getting funded entirely through creditors? Is there a mismatch? Do you have inventory? If not, this guy is going to come and check that inventory. He is going to do an audit of the inventory. And if he finds surprises there, it could result in reducing the limit. Are there any non-productive investments which have gone? So some of them, unfortunately, the small medium enterprises are more or less, even if they are a company, they are proprietary driven. The expenses of the family also sometimes creep in. Okay.
Let me just think. See, guys. What I'm trying to think. What all we are while we are talking about survival and we are talking about taking critical look at the business. The intent is not to scare every one of us. There's enough of scare going around. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The intent is to say we have to get very realistic and we have to focus on our business. And while we are saying get into for survival mode, we have to do some of the previous stuff which we talked about in the previous slide. Okay. There is a lot of groundwork that we have to do. Options are available. Options are available for many businesses. It is tough going for certain businesses,
yes,
but that does not mean that there are no alternate actions. Okay. Fund management, and see, let's put it this way. There are two stages in the funding or in the growth part. The first is once you survive and you're able to manage your funds well, especially in a tough situation, it's easier to provide for the sustenance and the growth that is required. So the key thing is what worked for us earlier was not going to work for us now. So it's better that we look at a realistic situation. We're not saying, oh my God, everything is.
No, that's not.
Neither should we be at the other saying that's not the intent at all. What we're trying to say is it's not that tomorrow onwards everything is going to go back into normal. The faster it is, and I'm telling you, there are multiple. I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, there was a guy who was doing cotton bags in Bangalore, and then as soon as the COVID hit, they started getting inquiries for masks, and he captured large order for this, and they are running full time there. Another example of a guy in Pina in Bangalore. He was doing machine tooling for thing, and initially just shut down, but he had good customers. He went back to them, and now he's doing ventilators for GE. So a pivot might be required, and that's what we are saying. Please look at opportunities, look at and there, for example, in the hospitality and other stuff, what is it that we can do? We have to look at different options. What we are trying to emphasize here is, for survival, what is it that I need to do? How is it I need to look at managing first my funds, and then look at fundraising? Fundraising, like RK said, there is opportunity still in certain sectors, but like what RK has mentioned in here, investors would want to understand our cash flow in depth. So it's critical for us to get down into looking at different scenarios. The intent is to get realistic and then plan for the future in a more realistic way.
And more importantly, the discipline which you showed during this period is going to be a significant positive as far as any investor is concerned. Okay, and this will definitely help them in evaluating the proposal in a much positive way. Matthew, next. Yeah,
just a second, I just want you to keep a time check, because we want to address few questions.
Absolutely.
So maybe another few minutes, and then we'll go back.
There are two couple of slides more.
Sure.
Okay, and more importantly, from every business point of view, the cash flow statement is the most important statement in a financial document. Unfortunately, people look at it only from a revenue and a profit point of view. Most small businesses, I would not, unless and until they are being made to understand by their respective chartered accountants, cash flow statement is something which is only for the chartered accountant to prepare and sign off. We would quickly run you through some of the normal scenario of a cash flow statement. A net income situation is when depreciation is not to be treated as something which is a cash outflow. It is only a provision. Increase in accounts payables. These are situations when you have still not paid a creditor, the cash is still available in the bank. Increased in accrued taxes. Situations where you have still not paid the tax, but the cash is still with you. Increase in account receivables. This is a very critical aspect. Most of the times, businesses feel that they have done very good sales, but at the end of the day, we see in the balance sheet that there is a significant increase in debtors, significant increase in accounts receivables. This is because you have provided credit sales. And as much as money lying in receivables, it has still not come to our bank. Irrespective of whether there is a profit in the company or not, it is while the company may be showing profit, the cash flow may be negative. There is no cash in the bank while the company is a profitable company. So this is because there is a significant increase in the accounts receivables. There are very large corporates who have taken supply from small and medium enterprises. They don't pay even in 180 days. And if you are a major supplier to such a corporate, even though you would have done a great sales during that year, it is better to be treated as half, because 180 days of money is still stuck with someone. And this could have bolstered your profits, but not your cash flow. Similar is the case of inventory. If there is an increase in inventory without it churning into cash through cash sales, it doesn't make any sense. So one has to critically look at what is happening in the cash flow side. And when we say cash flow side, it has to be drawn month on month, not at the end of the year, or rather, typically what happens is it is towards end of September when the balance sheets are drawn. And unfortunately, by then it is about 1.5 years. Instead, let us start from April, May. It is better to be looked at month on month. Similarly,
RK, sorry.
Yeah.
RK, can we just move on to the next slide because we need to provide for some
Yeah,
questions
Matthew.
also. I'll just move on to the next slide in terms of what these guys need to be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are redrawing the cash flow for this particular situation is net survival factor. Depreciation here is a negative because you would have invested into plant and equipment and infra, which we say please don't do. If you have de-invested, it's a very good situation to be in. That's why plant and equipment is in green. As much as possible, try to ensure that your money is, the cash flow is controlled. Do not invest into anything which is now not required. Nothing essential, only the essentials have to be invested into. We would rather look at your LSP instead of the USP. So when I say LSP, it is liquidity first, solvency next, ensure that you are solvent, pay all your bank dues, so on and so forth, and finally profitability.
So I'd like to just add on there again, through the whole thing, what we're trying to split out in terms of thing is, first stage, survival. For that, cash flow and funds management is very, very critical in the way we look at it. The next one, we want to look at fundraising, equity and debt, and how do we go about it. That will be covered more in the next one. We are ready to take on one. What we're trying to just get on is our key takeaway is what we have over here. Focus on liquidity first, staying solvent, and then only worry about the profitability and the growth. Okay. That's what we had. Any questions? We are open to taking them. Varsha, Rishabh,
and the participants.
Yeah, so thank you, Isaac and RK. So there are quite a few questions which our participants have asked, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to club a couple of them into one, which is like a very pressing need, and you may you may answer it probably right now, or maybe on a one-on-one connect. But something like what I think most of them are asking is that, given the situation and the lockdown, if it's going to be extended, obviously survival is a big issue, while we are talking about rejigging our entire business model and everything. But specific questions are, what kind of solvency funds kind of are available, or how do they really tap that given the current situation? Because there is a huge cash crunch that is really all the entrepreneurs are going through. I think that's one of the predominant question that's coming out from all the participants, and I'd like to request both of you to probably respond to that.
Sure.
Okay, you go first and then I'll go next.
What are the questions?
Yeah, the questions basically is that solvency funds, what did they do for immediate survival, liquidity and all of that?
Liquidity, survival, and liquidity, solvency, and
yeah. So, no, are there any funds or anything which are looking at providing liquidity to these guys during during this crisis?
As far as investors are concerned, at this point in time, everyone wants to have a wait and watch, because if you look at what has happened in March, the venture capital and the private equity investments fell by about 88%. The investors are also going to do similar exercises with their investees, but from a banking perspective, significantly high liquidity is available. What has happened in the policy in April 1st, and then again on 20th, and again very recently, there are 3 or 4 situations which have happened through the efforts of RBI. They have provided funds to banks. They have decided to fund significant funds to non-banking financial companies, which typically fund the small and medium enterprises most of the times. And there are very specific NBFCs who are now a bit aggressive. Some of them, like India Infoline, is willing to provide top-ups, also looking at providing business loans. State Bank of India has been aggressive. They are providing a 20% up, 20% higher limit for all those limits which you have presently have, and this is going to be there for the next 12 months. The interest rates are pretty low, and it would be incumbent on the businesses to reach out to these banks the moment the lockdown is open, And but all in all, I would say from a bank's perspective, since the funds are available and they also have to survive, there are most of the possibilities are that banks would entertain good customers.
So thank you so much. Isaac, would you like to add, or can I just
Yeah,
go ahead to the next one?
okay, so let me just add on there. For example, from the clients that we've been working with, IT firms and others are actually seeing some of the IT firms in, especially whether it's media, whether it is in terms of taking businesses online, digital transformation. They have been seeing increased inquiries coming in, especially from the US and abroad. Opportunities are there from the many firms that we've been talking in across India. We are seeing that there are opportunities and inquiries are coming in. We have business and business networking and opportunity is definitely happening. I also know of a fund recently, and I don't want to take the name yet over here publicly, but they have said any businesses, especially in IT and related areas, they're ready to fund for liquidity up to 1 crore. Okay, so there are options, but like RK was highlighting, it is very critical to get our redrawn cash flows and the business plans very tightly looked at, because that is what anyway banks and investors are going to look at. Yeah, Varsha.
So thank you so much. One of our entrepreneur friends has asked Yashwant that he needs help in he wants to prepare a future cash flow statement given this uncertain environment for the next couple of months. Obviously 1/3 of the year gone. So he's asked that if there are any predicting tools that can be used, or what is it. And maybe Isaac, what I can also suggest is that there are certain questions of the entrepreneurs. Maybe some of them you can actually do a detailed call with them. That will be beneficial for them. But yes,
cool.
He's asked this question, if you can, because that would be a question for many of them.
Okay, cool. So let me put it this way. See, now business plans, cash flow statements, scenario building are all available as tools on the net. Okay. However, those are formats which are there. Okay. The intelligence comes in the scenario building and the experience around what if. That is the critical part. Okay. It is good to be able to either get some help or get some experience around what would be available. There are enough tools there. But there is no one predictor model saying, this is what it is. If I change something here, that's going to work. No, that is an iterative process.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anyone who has any follow-up questions on this or anything, please feel free. My number's out there. I'm ready to, at any point in time, let's just fix a call and can explain to you further on what I mean by that.
Yeah, maybe one last question, and that comes from another friend of ours who says that the kind of industry that they are in, which is mostly the event industry and services industry, where does it really look like? Of course, I think the beginning you said that adaptation and is the key, and the survival of the quickest. So therefore, industries such as the service industry, how does it really look like? What do you really think of the situation that's going to be ahead of them?
Okay, so I'm going to not answer that question directly, but I'll give you some couple of examples. Okay, I was talking to a person today who's running a HR consulting firm and a services firm out of Delhi, and he said, what am I going to be doing? I was earlier helping firms with this. We talked about multiple opportunities for training. For example, I talked to him about another firm where a guy in the Northeast has got inquiries order worth 5 times his business. He needs his people identified and trained. Okay. So I'm saying, look for synergies. What you haven't been doing earlier, in terms of, say, another one. I was talking to another person who's doing, who was earlier focusing only on dangerous goods shipments, and that was abroad. Now he's starting to look within and saying, here is what I can do. So my answer back to that is, services sector, hospitality, events, etc., seeming to get hit. However, what we need to look at is, what are the other options / opportunities? You have to look for business pivots. You can't keep thinking about, okay, I was a events management company, I will continue to be that. What if they say that events are not going to be held? for a while, because that looks like we don't have a line of sight to it. And then how do you survive? Let's look at how adjacencies, if any, what can we do to pivot? So you'll have to look at options. And like, okay, yeah.
So thank you so much. Just responding to one gentleman here, Zahid. Zahid, what I would suggest is that if you can get in touch with us, Rishabh has sent us, our email IDs are there. You can join the forum or just write to us or write to one of the expert advisors, and we'll take your question offline, one-on-one. And thank you so much, Isaac, and thank you, RK, for being with us and
Thank you so much.
being a part of this, and request the others to please kindly reach out to us directly or to reach out to our expert advisors. We would be very, very happy to help you get connected with the advisors on a one-on-one, so that all your questions can actually be responded and answered to. Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Yeah, I'll just like to add, Varsha, here that next session, which we are going to do, is going to talk about valuations and fundraising. That's going to be scheduled on 5th. And there it will be more in terms of what our readiness for fundraising and what we need to do.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Request you all to join us again on the 5th of May at 11 a.m. The registration link for the event, the second part of the virtual meetup, we have already shared the link in the chat, so you can register for the event right away. And we look forward to see you all.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, RK. Thank you, Barsha. Thank you all for joining us.